One. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stoverload Music Podcast. And I'm coming back to you again with another badass, amazing independent artist. Now, if you guys follow the shows, our weekly show, week 44 featured a band opening the show known as Overdriven. And on a side note, you guys know I like to use my last name as a joke or humor, so I was refraining from doing that with this band. But anyway, today we got three of the members with us today. I want you to welcome three members from the band Overdriven. Guys, welcome.
What's up, man?
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you. For all the new listeners who don't know who you are, introduce yourselves so they know you.
I'm Joey Manella from Manassas, Virginia.
Lead guitar player.
I'm Thomas Robinson. I'm rhythm guitar player.
Nick Sticks on drums.
Nicholas.
So we got all the men behind the music with us today, huh?
Yeah. Missing one of our guys. We're missing one of our, well, two of our guys. One rhythm guy on the bass, my man JJ, and lead singer's name is Robbie Kaplan.
You guys do some amazing work. And I was doing my homework and I was checking out the music video for The River. And like, you guys are a badass band. Now, if I'm correct, you guys are from like the South pretty much, right?
Yeah. We're right over the Southern Gateway in Fredericksburg.
Just outside of Northern Virginia.
Yeah, just down south of Northern Virginia.
It depends how you look at it, to be honest, because to me, Virginia is still, it's like right on that borderline. Are we south or are we north? You know, the way that they build it, I consider us north, to be honest. But right when you hit North Carolina, that's when you get that southern vibe.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like maybe you were closer to the Bible Belt somewhere, but that's like probably the opposite direction of you.
Yeah,
we're only 1 hour away from Washington D.C.
Yep.
Oh damn. Okay.
Yeah. And where I'm from is like 30 miles away from Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not very far.
Okay. Well, Bay, you guys are still banging it out. I could tell by the sound of your music, you guys have done a great job reaching a lot of fans with your music. How's that been going for you?
Awesome.
So it's taken forever, but
yeah,
I mean,
feels awesome now.
It's getting good now. I'm the original. I started the band. I started writing music when I was a kid, and I don't know, man. It's some of the riffs I'm playing today I wrote 15 years ago. Yeah, so and then the resurfacing. This is the second or third lineup we've had. So
and the most badass lineup.
Definitely the best lineup, most dedicated lineup. We went through a lot of phases. I went through a lot of phases. And actually simplified everything, and it actually sounds a lot better since I simplified things from the original way I used to write. But it's been there's a lot of history. There's a lot of musical history behind this band, and it's really about music. It's really not about partying or anything like that. It is. We love doing all that stuff, but we like to build everything around the music. My father was a professional musician. He played for Joe Maphis in the 70s. He moved on to bluegrass. He was a professional bluegrass musician, and Washington, D.C. was the bluegrass capital of the world in the 80s and the 90s. So he was in the middle of all that, and I grew up and I was born into that. And then he was a drummer actually and moved on to man on a guitar, but he loved everything. He knew everybody from Johnny Winter to Ralph Stanley and guys like that. So we always had a real great respect for musicianship. Yeah, so that's kind of where the stuff comes from. And he had a lot to do with it before he passed away about 5 years ago. But very old school way of thinking, man. It's not really like put your music together on a computer and release it, as soon as possible and work the internet. We're trying to make the songs the best that they can be, as just five guys in a room, so. And
your music's speaking for itself. I mean, you guys put out some massive ass music. I mean, the lyrics are badass, but because your lead singer's not with us, we got to focus on the music today. But I really applaud your guys' music. I really applaud the music that you guys come up with. It's really good, authentic.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and that's what we go for. We want to sound like the guys that are standing here, you know.
Definitely a music first priority. We care about visuals, we care about looking great, etc. But at the end of the day, if you close your eyes, do you enjoy the music? That's the first priority.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
Nail on the nose. I'll drink that.
Especially with Robbie's voice, because there's you know, we're just trying to make. We want him to sound like, and he's really achieved this of sounding like Robbie, you know, and that's in today's world, the market is so flooded, you know, so it's the best way to stick out and be unique is really to be yourself, you know, and a lot of musicians kind of, you know, follow the trends and stuff like that. We've never done that, you know, so that's probably why it's becoming so unique, you know,
which could be leading to a lot of your progress and a lot of your good feedback, and so many people really take it to your work is because you're not being like everybody else.
Yeah, and you know,
credit to Joey on that. Yeah.
Well, you know, I worked for Live Nation for 16 years as a production assistant. I probably worked over 1,000 shows. I've you know, big shows, huge shows, and I saw a huge range of music, you know, in one day, let alone a month or a year, you know, and I saw you know, everything, you know, and you know, you got people that are huge pop stars that are not that great of musicians, and then you have great musicians that have cult followings. They might not sell a place out, but they're consistent. And you know, it seems like they could probably be a little happier with that, you know, and because they're writing the music they want to, their fans get them, you know, their fans love what they do and they're loyal, and that means more to you know, some people than being the biggest band in the world, you know, and that comes with a lot of hassle too, you know. So some bands, you know, it reaches a point to where is it really worth, you know, writing a pop song just to get to the next step, you know. So it's
some artists might consider that, like, if you're starting off like in a genre that you're in, and then you talk about having to write a pop song just for the sake of getting some traction or some attention. Some artists kind of take it as that's sacrilegious. Like if you're a metalhead or a rock star or something like that, then you go down that route. It's like, wait a minute, what are you doing here? That's usually like rolling the dice on whether or not that can make you or break you.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know, if at the end of the day, if those artists are happy with the songs that they write, well, then that's them. Yeah, but I'm a guitar freak. I love guitar. I love all the big bands. I like all the you know, all the guitar heroes, Eric Clapton, the Jimi Hendrix, and
until
and
Jimi
all those
Hendrix
guys
is trending, or
until
Megadeth is trending.
So I went from, you know, blues to heavy metal to hard rock to bluegrass, and all the guitar players, you know, even like Paco de Luce and Andre Segovia, Spanish classical guitar players. You know, I'm in the guitar, and I respect the instrument, and so that's where, you know, that's where my heart lies. So I kind of, you know, make decisions based on, well, you know, those guys never did that, so why do I got to do it? You know,
right?
Which may be right for other people, but that's how I think. You know,
right?
So,
well, I know it takes time to build a brotherhood, and you guys have gone through a couple different lineups now. You said now it's the most badass it's ever been.
Yeah.
What were the differences now that kind of gave you the idea this is the brotherhood, this is it?
Prior to these guys, I was playing with musicians that were very, very accomplished on their own. But as far as writing songs and accompanying a musician, you know, other musicians in a band, you know, it was more about showing off. And when you go into songwriting like that, it never ends up with the best song. Sometimes just one chord is all it takes. Sometimes it needs a little fluff and it needs a little extra here and there. And unless you're Steve Vai or something, and there's a market for everything nowadays, but
and because for me, for example, like he's like Joey's, I could play guitar before I started playing in this band, but Joey is really teaching me how to play the guitar, like really understand how to play the guitar. Nick's helping me understand all the theory side of it. I'm a guy where it's like, give me a boom, 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 bop, and I know exactly what that means. You know what I'm saying? But these guys are really, there's, for lack of better words, he's almost sculpting the band that to be able to accompany. Because I've been in choirs and all this. A lot of musicians on one stage, and everybody has to feed off the other person. It's not about one person; it's about the band.
And also, back in the when I first started, we were an instrumental band, so I didn't have a singer, and I wrote music. I never considered what the singer really needed. And when Robbie came in the picture, and I started writing with Robbie, he was like, "Hey, calm down a little bit," And now when I write music, I consider all those things from everybody's perspective, and the writing process has gotten a lot better. The sound of everything has gotten better. The studio we work in is getting better. I mean, everything, the relationships that we've built are getting better. And when I worked for Live Nation, a tour would come in and I would see how a well-oiled machine would work. You get someone in like Peter Frampton. And Peter Frampton's guitar tech was probably the hardest working guitar tech I've ever seen in my life, and I'll get to see those things, and Peter Frampton's music is not all that complicated, but when you see how shows are put together, and maybe, you see a band like a thrash metal band in a big venue, and you can't hear anything. You can't hear anything because they're playing so many notes. But then you see a band like Soundgarden or Black Sabbath, they're hitting one note and it's giant and you can hear everything, and I saw those, I noticed those things, and that got injected into my writing. And I was like, well, you could be Iron Maiden or you could be Black Sabbath, but Black Sabbath can knock you out with one big note.
Yeah.
And then and people seem to enjoy it more, when things are simpler. Even lighting shows, you see a stage that's got 50 million lights on it. It's just a bunch of blinking. Lights are blinking everywhere. But when you see a simple show, like I saw the OJs, I worked for the OJs one time. The simplest thing in the world, but the music and the lighting floored me. It actually brought me to tears because it was so good, and that had such a huge impact on me. When I saw that, I dove really deep into soul music, and and you could hear they could have had a lamp on stage, really. So all those experiences I had, plus with my dad, got injected into this band, and I think that's what makes it so great. It's really not anything I did by myself,
Not to mention, most of these guys grew up together. Between, honestly, I'm the oddball, not even the oddball, but I'm the only one that didn't grow up with these guys. I mean, everybody was up in Manassas growing up, tearing shit up, being kids, and then form that bond and then create this band. I mean, a band of brothers, it sounds generic, but it's exactly what this is. And I mean, these guys found me, and I mean, took me in like I was a homie since back in the day. So, I mean, we really are, and we hang out outside of the band. You know what I mean? We'll go out, hang out, party together. Our families hang out together. Our kids hang out. So it's a family effort. We got a great support system.
Yeah, everybody around us are great people. We don't let people come in and tear that apart.
Yeah.
One thing to add in is just everybody being committed. I'm kind of part of the new lineup. It's complicated because I was in a former band with Joey and our bass player, but just being committed and available 2-3 days a week or more. In regards to your question about different lineups and what's different from the past, and
we all went jump band from band. there'd be times where me and Nick were in a band together, or me and JJ, or me and Robbie. You know, I mean, it was like there was probably 3 or 4 different bands that we all jumped in between. You know, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh well, everybody else quit. We hit the age 30, and we want to keep going. And these are the only guys that we know that can really do it, that will be committed to do it. You know,
I wasn't in his band at the time, and I saw a video of him playing with Thomas, and I said, "Oh, I like your rhythm guitar player. That's Thomas."
Yeah.
And then that kind of opened the door for them to reach out back to me and say, "Hey, we're looking for a drummer again." So just everybody staying busy and being available. Like if Thomas and them weren't playing diligently multiple times a week, if I didn't reach out and say, "Hey, that's cool. I like what you guys are doing there," you know, just being committed and really want to be here. Really,
yeah.
We probably talk on the phone every day. You know what I'm saying? This is we're not playing games over here. You know, we're doing this for real. So
yeah.
And I can really tell by the quality of the music, and I'm loving what I'm hearing so far. And I know you guys got a new one coming out on the 17th.
We sure do. February 17th. It's called Slow Me Down. It's going to be on all major media streaming platforms. I mean, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music. I think like Tidal, Amazon Music. It's going to be everywhere. So we're going to release that on the 17th. And then 2 weeks later, which I believe is March the 3rd, the music video for Slow Me Down will be coming out. So that'll be out on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Yep.
That is really cool. And fans, I'll be honest with you. When I first came across these guys, I saw their band pick. I thought I was going to be dealing with like some sort of thrash metal band. I literally thought I was. Then I heard the music and I heard that badass Southern rock type feel. And I was like, whoa, what a culture shift this was.
And we've got 2 songs out now that everybody can check out before Slow Me Down comes out to kind of verse themselves on what we do. There's one song called Taken. That was the first single that we released in 2019. And then I believe it was 2021, we released our second single, River. And there's songs and music videos to both of those. Then we're going to give you Slow Me Down on the 17th. And then from then on, we're going to start dropping new songs. We plan to do it every 10 to 12 weeks. You're going to get a new song from us. So
and we're on track. We're on track to do that.
Yeah.
The material's like really flowing. We've already written a whole new album. After this, we got 3 more to do. After Slow Me Down, and that's going to complete our 5-song EP. And we've already written a whole new album. So we got a lot of time to release. We got a lot of material. I have probably 20 or 30 old songs that we haven't even touched. But
and we got the best problem in the world. We got riffs still coming out of our ass. Like we can't kind of like plug this thing at some point. You know?
Sometimes we write them by accident.
Yeah, it's like no, play that again. I'm recording it.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. And it sounds like Joey's the band dad.
Yeah,
I would, you know what?
Robbie's the band dad. He's the oldest, but
I was gonna say I think Robbie's the band dad, but this dude right here is definitely, you know, I call him, you know, our leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we trust in what Joey's vision is. You know, he doesn't just say my name's Joey and we're doing it like this. It's actually the polar opposite of the way that we do things. So it even brings even more respect to it. But
there's probably a lot of different books that are written on how to be a successful band, but most would agree having one unified idea or a leader, and you kind of commit. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and we're just kind of committing to, we trust the vision, and he tries to get as much input from the rest of us as possible.
I did. Once I learned about punk rock, it was like, you know, punk rock, there's just guys in a garage that couldn't really play that great at first, and you just keep working at it and listening to each other, and yeah, I might be the most accomplished guy in the band, but these guys are music fans too. You know, they've got a different perspective than I have. I come from a very musical background, so and playing guitar, you know, sometimes you need that perspective from a singer or a drummer, you know, to make things right and make things work. And I can play other instruments, but I am a guitar player. I'm not a drummer, you know, and when you see a band like you know, Rush or somebody like that, Neil Peart wrote the lyrics. You wouldn't think that because he's the drummer, you know, or stuff like that. You know, we all work on lyrics and stuff together. We work on everything together. I don't really just want it to be my band. If I wanted to do that, I could sit in my living room and put it on a computer.
Yeah.
I want the input. I want these guys to feel like they had some input when they're on stage and they're playing those notes. I want them to feel it. So that's where we come from. And I learned that from my dad, man. I could talk to you about my dad for 3 hours about the musical journey me and him went on. But we would be in Alexandria 1 minute, and the next night we'd be in West Virginia playing bluegrass. Go to Woodbridge in Virginia, playing blues. Going to Joe Hasselvanner's house over in Woodbridge playing heavy metal. And I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of musicians that would come through Woodbridge in Northern Virginia, and that all know each other. And guys like Roger Phones, he was in the punk rock, the 80s hardcore punk rock scene. And it's really when I meet other musicians, I try to listen, especially with older musicians. I listen to them. A lot of people brush that off, but I want to listen. I'm friends with a lot of older musicians, and I listen to what they tell me to do. That's what I say. Like, it's not really just me doing this. It's a lot of other people have a lot of input, and I listen to the things that they say, and I'll go play with a 12-piece band with a horn section up, and 1 minute I'm playing old funk music or old bands like Stevie Wonder and stuff like that. And when you go do stuff like that, and you're a hard rock fan like me, you get that perspective. You go play in a reggae band, something like that. So that's something I did for a while. You get a perspective of timing that you don't get if you just play hard rock and heavy metal.
Right.
But get those other perspectives, then you start injected into your heavy metal and your hard rock, and it makes it a little more interesting. Especially with the Southern rock feel. That's always, everybody loves that.
Yeah.
So,
Southern rock is still simple and fun.
It's simple and fun. You bend the strings. Those bends is where you get a lot of emotion. I see a lot of guitar players, they don't bend any strings, but it was especially like when I was coming up through the 90s and early 2000s. Everybody forgot who Eddie Van Halen was. Everybody forgot who Jimi Hendrix was. Jimi Hendrix can bend one note and make it 7 notes.
Right.
And real crazy with one note, and I was like the only one that noticed that. And when I was going to school, so it's kind of weird because I went back in time to listen to music when I was a real young kid instead of really listening to what was going on. So those type of things. That's why we're good, man. That's it's those types of things I studied. We all study. And
it shows. It really shows, and we thank you for that. Ed. The fans love it. We're enjoying your work, and believe me, you're making a big difference in the world of music for us listeners. We're at a point in the show right now. We want to do something special, and this is for each of you guys. If you wanted to send a special message out and say anything you want to new listeners or current, what would you like to tell them?
I don't even know what I would.
If you were a new listener to Overdriven, then I would say, we're a solid hard rocking band. That's, you're gonna. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the musicianship, at the composition, and even at the showmanship of this band. I mean, we put on a show that is truly unbelievable. I mean, we don't just get on stage and kind of mindlessly walk around. We really put a lot of thought and effort into this. It's not about us. It's about putting on a show for y'all. And that's what we're about.
I think if you go see a band and you leave there and say, that band sounded better than the album, or that band made me feel something so deep and so good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go listen to everything they've got. That happened to me a million times.
You're going to get a lot of feel from our music. You're going to feel it.
And especially if you're a young musician, there's some really cool bands coming out these days, like us and like other bands. But if you don't go back in time and listen to what those bands did and put yourself in that time, like in the 1960s, those, electric guitar was only like 10 years old, 15 years old, and see what those guys did and what people like Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen did for instruments and did for guitar and did for the industry, then you're cutting yourself short.
Right.
You can play as many notes as you want, but when you learn about what those guys went through, especially with their managers and how they were treated, you wouldn't want to be a musician, So that's what I would say. If you come to our show and we've made you feel something deeper than before you got there, and you appreciate everything we did on stage, then that's what we're trying to do.
We did our job.
All I got is we're committed to digging deep and whatever it takes to keep the ball rolling. We're aware this is a long process and we're in it for the long haul. So, just keep in and we're going to keep digging. So.
Yep.
Well, please do, because a lot of us are loving your work and we want to hear more of it. If fans want to find you guys and follow you, how can they do that?
So if you want to follow us, we're on Instagram at Overdriven VA. On Facebook, we're at The Overdriven. And then if you go on YouTube, you do youtube.com/Overdriven VA. And then, Spotify, YouTube, Overdriven. OVERDRIVEN, because I can't spell. So I figure I would just help everybody out.
Hey, it all works out in the end, doesn't it?
Oh, do.
Well, fans,
keep on. So just every 10 to 12 weeks, look for a new single.
You heard it right there, fans. And unfortunately, we hit our mark for today. But guys, thanks again for taking a little bit of time out. We're looking forward to that new single on the 17th and what's coming out in March. You guys made a big fan over here. Till then, fans, it's all the time we got for today. And you know what we say, all good things must come to an end. But they told you how to find them. They told you where to go follow them and reach out to them. They're really cool dudes. They'd like to talk to you. So by all means, get on board the Overdriven bandwagon, because I'm right there in the front car. Until then, I'm your host, Mike Stover. We're out.
Great thing for